Hey GHC youth, I hope your summer has been a time of adventure, of fun, and rest. And especially I want to encourage you to make sure you're resting in the Lord, in prayer and in devotion, so that you can grow in your faith over these next few months. Hey, we are in week 3 of our series on messy relationships. I hope you've been enjoying them. And this week is on forgiveness. So we're going to look at Matthew chapter 18 to see what God has to say about forgiveness in our relationships. In Matthew 18, verse 21, the disciple Peter goes to Jesus and asks him, "Lord, how many times could my brother sin against me and I forgive him? As many as 7 times?" Jesus says, "I tell you, not as many as 7, but 70 times 7. Whoa. Well, in his question to Jesus, I'm not sure that Peter was actually all that concerned about a lesson on forgiveness. I actually think he's just humble bragging here. Let me explain. Jewish rabbis during that time, they taught that a good person would forgive up to 3 times. And so Peter, he's trying to show that he'll go above and beyond. And he picks the number 7. It's a holy number. It's the perfect, number in the Bible. And so he says, Jesus, I'm not just going to forgive 3 times. I'm going to forgive 7 times. The holy, perfect number. He's probably expecting praise and, Jesus giving a pat on the back. Wow, Peter, you are just such a forgiving person. And so he's probably shocked when Jesus says, hey, it's not 7 times, 70 times 7. Why? It doesn't seem very fair, does it? It's actually not about the number. What Jesus is saying is you don't put a limit. You never stop forgiving. Well, hey, I'll give you a secret. I'll give you the secret to Jesus' answer in just a minute. But first, I want to talk about why forgiveness is so difficult, but so important. One of the most difficult experiences you will experience in your life is when someone hurts you. And it seems like the closer the person is to you, the more it hurts. Because when a stranger says bad things about you, you brush it off. If they steal something from you, man, that stinks, but you move on. A friend says something bad about you, ooh, it stings. And they steal something from you, wow, they betrayed your trust. A family member, someone who's supposed to love you, that you love, who's supposed to protect you and help you grow and be safe, when they hurt you, say bad things about you, steal from you, man, that is gut-wrenching and devastating. When such sins occur, they can cause serious physical, mental, and emotional, and spiritual pain on its victims. But here's the thing, the damage doesn't end there with just what was wrong. There's an even more destructive sin that can arise than being robbed or being gossiped about or even being punched in the face. It's when you, having been so seriously and genuinely hurt, foster anger. And that anger, you hold on to it, that anger turns into bitterness. And that bitterness turns into a spirit of unforgiveness. And you hold that against that person, not just for a little bit, but for days, for weeks, for years, some people even a lifetime. And it cripples them and it poisons their life, it poisons their relationships, and just messes everything up. Anger and bitterness, they are the fruits of an unforgiving heart. And they can turn even to a sense of wanting to get revenge, wanting the other person to hurt just as much as you were hurt, maybe even more. But here's the thing, holding on to anger and bitterness, it's like someone holding on to a burning coal. The only person who gets burned is you. Unforgiveness, burning unforgiveness, will destroy you from the inside out. It's normal to get angry, but God tells us in Ephesians 4:26, do not let the sun go down on your anger. God's very clear throughout the Bible. He instructs that in any type of situation, any type of person, your brother, your family, an enemy, you love them, you forgive them. Yeah. That means no matter how criminal, no matter how hurtful, no matter how evil their action or that person is, you're supposed to forgive them. But let me be clear, forgiveness is not about letting them off the hook. It's not about saying, oh, well, you robbed me, you stole my laptop, I'm not going to report you to police. Hey, report them to the police. Report them to your teacher. Report them to, to the judge, to whoever's in charge. Maybe you'll get justice, but maybe not. Sometimes you'll never ever see the person who hurt you again. Ultimately, justice is God's responsibility, and He's given a promise to us to his children that he will right every wrong and that he will give everyone the justice that they are due. But there's a trick to that, right? If you think about it, if you really think about it, if God were to give you what you are due, if he were to punish you for every wrong you've committed, you'd be in serious trouble, right? I know I would. So here's an eternal secret to life. Forgive because you want to be forgiven. In fact, God, he words it this way in Ephesians 4:32. He says, be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you. Yeah, so forgive, not just because you want to be forgiven, but forgive because you've already been forgiven. God tells us to forgive others not because they ask for forgiveness, because many times they don't, or because they deserve it, a lot of times they don't, or because they'll learn their lesson from your generosity, they'll change, they'll become a better person, they'll never hurt you ever again or anyone else. No. God says forgive them because in the same way, he has forgiven you. And you would want that same forgiveness. You need to realize, you and I, we need to realize that we don't deserve God's forgiveness. We don't learn our lesson. We don't even always ask for forgiveness genuinely, authentically. Yet God has forgiven us at the great cost of the life of his son, Jesus. Jesus forgave us before we ever asked for it, before we ever even sinned, because he knows that we need it. Forgiveness is not easy. Forgiveness is difficult. Forgiveness is costly. It requires you to be generous, to be gracious, to be merciful to someone who's hurt you deeply, to someone who doesn't deserve that mercy. But when you feel like you can't forgive, I want you to do this. I want you to pray and just picture yourself before the cross. And you look up and you see Jesus hanging there for your forgiveness. Because listen closely. If you cannot understand why you should forgive someone, then you do not understand the gospel. You do not understand how or why you've been forgiven. You do not understand the grace and the mercy, the love and the forgiveness Jesus Christ has shown you. Why should we forgive as many times as necessary? The 70 times, 7 times? Because that's how many times you need to be forgiven. And that's how many times God has, is, and will forgive you. You've been richly forgiven by God at a tremendous cost that Jesus paid with his life. Think about who you're holding a grudge against, refusing to forgive, and pray to Jesus for forgiveness for your unforgiveness. And then pray to Jesus for the strength to forgive someone who you might think is unforgivable. You'll be unchained from a bitter hurt. You'll be set free from your wounds to be healed, because that is the power of gospel forgiveness. Well, GHC youth, I want to encourage you. Keep on meeting in your groups every week. Keep on encouraging each other to read the Bible and to pray. The Bible commands us to encourage each other. Why? Because it's not easy, and we need encouragement to do it. And hey, don't forget to check in on the GHC Youth Ministry Facebook group, where I post a weekly Summer Spirit Challenge. And just complete that challenge, enter it in for a chance to win a $10 gift card every week and a grand prize at the end of the summer. Hey, keep on keeping on in faith, and I will see you next week.